Welcome into another episode of the Community Hour. We've got one of the best here with us today. Just a quick reminder, get that. Oh, you can see the ring light there. Quick reminder, you can get the accidental community manager from Adrian out there. Hope to have him on in December. So live from Las Vegas, election day in America. Remember to get out and vote. It's 8:30 in the morning. Feels like 9:30. It's fall back. All that great stuff. Really excited about the show today. Everybody over at Camunda has got like an all-star team. Their community DevRel efforts, absolutely amazing. This is going to be a great opportunity to kind of learn from the team over there, what they're doing, seeing what they're up to. All the way from Berlin, Germany. Berlin's like one of the most amazing cities. Definitely recommend to get out there and do it. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit about the Luca over there for and what they do. So we've got them on the show. So without further ado, buckle up. Here we go. So Camunda is the shining star for what any developer relations community and team should aspire to in the world of DevRel. It's like they are a North Star that so many of us look up to, even if we don't have developer relations type stuff in our efforts. It's one that a lot of us just look at in awe. It's like one day we'll get there. So Luca is a community builder at heart. So it's kind of the community builder at heart episode. They are passionate about building meaningful relationships that serve global communities, not just like a North America, but imagining having communities around the world, the teams around the world, members and customers, and really helping to empower them. They are the global community lead at Camunda. And over the past years, they built different community programs and currently manages the Camunda Community Champion Program. Can't wait to learn about that, which is a program dedicated to Camunda's most dedicated and passionate community contributors. And if you look at their Twitter account, all their interactions with community members and photos is absolutely fantastic and something that we should all aspire to. Over at Camunda, it's a software company focused on reinventing process orchestration. In the past, they built different community programs. For example, a support program for a network of global meetup organizers. Last year, they launched this Camunda Champion Program, a program that was built to recognize and reward their most passionate community contributors. Apart from their role at Camunda, they are board member at Signal of Solidarity. I'll be sure to get out a link to that, which is a nonprofit organization that is committed to contribute a plural. I'm trying to get this at like 8:30 in the morning. A pluralistic. Apparently, I need more coffee. An open society. For fun facts, they used to have a cat for years that even slept in the bed, but developed a cat allergy once they moved out from their mother's house. And so without further ado, let's bring them up to the stage so that we can get going and learning about community. How's it going today?
Hey, thank you so much for the nice introduction, and thank you for having me today, Blake.
Great. So I guess let's kind of jump into it. So just kind of like for you with community, just one of the things I guess we can start out with. I know we talked about some agenda points, things like that, but how did you get into this world? Are you also like kind of an accidental community manager like all of us?
Yeah, I would say so. I think in the past, in my past jobs, I did like marketing communications, I did events, and I think the one of the things that I always enjoyed most is yeah, really working with people and interacting with people and also supporting people and seeing them grow. And I think that was something that always like yeah, fascinated me in all of my jobs. And I think I kind of was a community builder back then, but it wasn't called like community building. So then I started at Camunda, and as you just mentioned, I started the support program for our global meetup organizers. And yeah, since then I've built different community programs at Camunda. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun to work with community members, really seeing them thrive, and really thinking about how to create value for community members, and obviously at the same time also supporting company goals and really driving initiatives forward within the company.
Nice. And since you've been in community for a while now, a really good time. Any kind of amazing community stories or memorable
Mhm.
stories like in your time that kind of jump out?
Mhm. I must say, I think there are several, so it's really hard to pick one. But something that is always amazing to me is when I can really feel that something I'm doing or the work that we are doing as a team adds value to people's life. I think there are community members who apply to our programs and they say that they're really happy when they see like the Camunda C on their laptop screen, and that this makes them happy. And Camunda itself is really like not an emotional product, but I think what makes it emotional for them is really the community, interacting with the community. And this is also what they say to us. And yeah, this is just something that makes me really happy to see, obviously, when people get like emotional about a product that is not emotional itself, but community makes it emotional for them.
Nice. And I just saw like on Twitter, and I mentioned it in the intro. I guess yeah, there's some sort of a user conference. I was like so busy at the time, but
Hmm.
every time my Twitter feed would open up, I would see like a photo of you, and it looked like a different community member, and it was just
Hmm.
like this really amazing,
Hmm.
like not even like a selfie, like this really kind of amazing dialogue taking place. So what was
Hmm.
this kind of user conference? And it looks like
Hmm.
you're having all these amazing moments with community members while it was taking place.
Yeah. So CamundaCon is our annual user conference. Prior to COVID, it was a completely in-person conference. Then actually we moved to completely virtual when COVID hit. We actually had a CamundaCon planned in New York to that time, and then we had to turn everything around in like a month to move it online. So that was exciting, but also what was exciting about that was really that before, when we had just an in-person conference, we were able to meet people who were in Berlin, for example. But then at some point, we just had the opportunity to really meet people where they are. And also we have a community in Brazil, in yeah, South America in general, in Russia, in like a lot of different countries. And then we were really able to meet them virtually there. And now it was the first time that we had a hybrid setup. So we had people in Berlin, but we also had people joining virtually. And yeah, I think the photos that you saw were actually with some of our champions. So we interviewed them for background, or I would say like we did like insights for the virtual attendees. So we recorded interviews with people who were on site so that also the people who were at home felt included and engaged. So yeah, I think these were the photos that you saw, and that was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing that warms my heart like when you see community teams or professionals kind of rolling up their sleeves, but actually out having conversations, not just
Mhm.
like sitting somewhere in a meeting room, like virtual meeting room. What are we going to do? What should we do for the community? And just like some of the most simple things, just talking to them and getting to tell their
Mhm.
stories. So that's just hearing you say that is just that's just next level inspiring stuff. So I don't know how you came up with that, but that's an amazing and simple touch.
Definitely. I think really listening to community members is like one of the most important skill to have as a community builder, also working on community. Yeah, because I think really listening to people and seeing where they are, what they need, and really adjusting to meet their needs, I think is most important.
Wow, it's like you've like heard my thoughts or something. I always say like it's like one of the best like secret weapons. You know, people say like, "Hey, Blake, give me like one thing." It's like that we can do for community members, and it's just listen And so when I get them on, it's like, because I've seen the ones where people just are talking nonstop, and then they'll slow down at that, like a 30-minute, they'll slow down at the final two. It's like, hey, any questions from you? Anything you want to say? And it's kind of rushed. And then I'm like the complete opposite. It's like, how can I help you? What are you trying to do? And when I'm seeing other people that come to that kind of same conclusion, it's amazing. So you're definitely doing it right. So that's great stuff.
Yes.
And then since at Camunda, like one of the things that a lot of people are, I would say, struggle with, so it'd be really amazing to get your insight and perspective for a lot of community teams coming in as professionals. They may not have media training, and so they may not have like public speaking, but then it's like presentation skills and kind of cross alignment become very big because the teams shouldn't be out in the silos. So for a lot of teams, then the next step is like starting to get their presentations and then maybe like showing value of community, trying to get cross aligned, say with marketing. But then the big step is like executives. And so there's a lot of teams out there today. It's like, how do we talk to executives? How do we sell value to them? And it seems like for what you're doing there, that the whole company is bought into the community effort. So if someone's saying like, hey, how do I speak to executives? How should I show my value specifically to like the C-suite? What have you seen that's kind of worked, or what advice would you give them?
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that this can be intimidating. For like, and but something that I think is super important to really realize what value community can bring, and also looking at the company goals and really thinking about, okay, what are the main company goals? What are we focusing on right now, and how can a community contribute to that, right? So what value can community bring to the company, and also how can community support these goals that the company has? And I think this as a first starting point to really talk with the C-level is super important. And yeah, I think also don't be afraid. Obviously you all have the same goal in mind, right? So you're really working as one team on the same vision. But I think also something that I'm super lucky to have is that Camunda always saw really like the value in community, and I think it's a company built around community. So obviously for me it was kind of easier, I would say, because people already realized the value of community. Obviously it can be a little harder when you have to convince people why it is important, but still I think there are so many companies right now who really realize how much value community can bring. And yeah, I think just do it.
Yeah, it's amazing advice. And usually for me, it's like, especially the bigger the company, it pretty much means that the presentations, it's going in, it's like, you're going to get 15 minutes, but in reality, it's like or not 15 seconds. It's like about 30 seconds or 2 minutes. So you're like, so always like having to go in, like, what's that 30-second version? What's that 2 minutes? Just in case. I mean, I get that 15 minutes. So I always just tell people, just make sure you have the short version. And so you're not there just like, oh my God, how can I boil this down in like 30 seconds? So always never a
Yeah,
dull moment.
definitely.
And one of the exciting things you just did, and for a lot of teams out there today are, I won't say struggling, but are kind of looking for inspiration, kind of don't know what they don't know, right? And so this Champions program that you did, kind of everyone's kind of, I won't say everyone, but a lot of people want to do super user programs or figure out ways to do it. And so kind of where did that idea start, and kind of what were some of the things that you hope to do with it? And were there any kind of challenges in terms of the inception investigation to actually launching it?
Yeah. So at Camunda, we always been really lucky that we have a really invested and dedicated community. So we have a lot of people who contribute to the community. For example, by organizing meetup groups, they contribute content. For example, they create blog posts, tutorials. They maybe onboard other users. So things like that. And we always realize that community is really crucial to our success, and that we have a really invested and dedicated community. But at some point we kind of realized, okay, we don't really have a formal way of reaching out to like our most invested community contributors. And we also realized that we don't really have a formal way of giving credit to those individuals. And this is why we then built the Camunda Champion Program, because we really wanted to give credit to the people who do the work and who contribute so much to our success. And yeah, so when we started, obviously, I think that is for me always kind of like the most difficult part, right? Getting started, really outlining the goals, really like identifying what do we actually want to achieve, and maybe also taking a step back and asking yourself, why do I even want to do it? Does it make sense? And what are the goals? And then also related to the goals, yeah, you can define your success metrics, right? I think that is for me always like the most challenging part, but I think if you like do this work right, then it's way easier to really get started. But something that we already talked about is really listening to community members, right? So I think this is something that I did a lot when I started the program. So I reached out to the people I've built the program for, and I asked them, okay, what do you need? Is that actually something that would be appealing to you? Would you even apply? Because if all of them would have said like, no, why do I even need that? Then obviously it doesn't make any sense like to launch the program, right? So I really was in touch a lot with the community members. They gave me a lot of input. I asked them what kind of rewards they would like to see. And that definitely helped me a lot to build the program. And yeah, so now I would say it's really successful, like successful in a way that really we see that it brings value and that it also does what we were hoping that it would do. So yeah, so it's going really well so far, and I'm really happy about that.
Nice. And just on, I guess one of the things for it, where for people may struggle with on kind of a champions program, is the members have to sign into anything, or there any type of agreements going into it. And did you have to do anything there, and any kind of best practices and formalizing something like that?
Mm-hmm. So how it works for us is that we have a website on and a champion webpage where we outline how people can apply, why we've built the program, and then there's an application form. So what we are doing is that we always say we really don't want to force people to do certain things that they don't want to do, but instead we really want to encourage people to do more of what they love doing. So we would never say to people like, okay, once you start in the program, you have to write like 10 blog posts and do I don't know how many code contributions, and then you have to do 2 podcasts, because there might be people who love talking in front of like a big crowd, and maybe there are people who love to organize meetups, but we also have other people in the program who really love to code, and they say like, I would never go on a stage, I would never talk in front of a meetup crowd, and that is totally fine because we really don't want to force people to do certain things. So I think that is like the way for us. I know that there are other champion programs, ambassador programs, they work differently. So in order to get into the program, you have to contribute in certain ways, which I think is totally fine. I think you really have to define for yourself what makes the most sense for you. But this is how it works for us. So we really don't force people to do like certain things. But of course, we also say we have a 1-year term, and people are able to renew their status after 1 year if they actively contributed to the community. But if they are not an active member, if they're not keep contributing, then we still appreciate them. Obviously, we would never kick them out of the community, but then we wouldn't renew their status. So obviously the expectations there are pretty clear. But also, of course, when someone, I mean, there are always reasons why people might not be able to contribute as much as in the previous year. And we just love to keep in touch with community members and our champions and to find out how they are feeling, how we can support them along their way, and yeah, then see what is going on for them and in their life. And obviously, if there's really like a reason why they couldn't contribute, then we would always take that into account.
Nice. And I was like, just like you again, it's like you just kind of read my thoughts. It's like hearing myself think on all those. So it's just amazing. And we've never met or anything. It's like just amazing when you come across other professionals that are coming away with like the exact same things. And you see some of these programs and like the daily requirements, 30 blog posts, 5 podcasts. It's like who's like, and anybody reading this is like, how are they getting anyone in this program that's signing up for like just like wow, it's like way too much. And I love like your point too is that people want to, and I was just say geek out. People like value or kind of lean a certain way, have different lanes and different tracks. Some people just want to speak. So even like in a support model, people may not have like all the time to jump out and help people on like threads and forums, but they say, hey, just put like a live show on for like, I'll be on for like 30 minutes, or maybe I'll take like a podcast, or other people are like, hey, I just want to like blog. And it's like, you got to have those, like to your point, those opportunities presented right for them to be able to take advantage of it. And it's not like a one size fits all that everybody just kind of wants to be a content creator like in the same way, or a creator in the same way, or help a company in the same way. Some may just like only be excited about providing feedback and ideas, and like, which is still just as valuable, but just like it's just amazing when you have like requirements to your point that makes sense. And it's just brilliant that you're kind of like thinking about what are the different kind of groups want to do. Like it would be like breakout groups, what we had kind of almost call it in the past. That's just amazing just to see like the other programs that are like keeping that in mind and really strategic. So that's just brilliant work there. And then if you could, like, what are some of the perks? Like when people are part of the program, what are do you have like intro perks? Do you have like a customer journey where there's like kind of like some milestones and kind of like at different things? Because with some of the programs I see, it's like all they do is like they get like a free t-shirt or a hoodie when they sign up. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, give them anything else, right? So, like, what are some of the value and perks that people get along the way?
Yeah. Yeah, so when we launched the program, or before we launched the program, as I mentioned, we had a chat with potential champions, and we asked them also, what would you like to see? What kind of rewards would you like to see? And something that we are offering, I think something that a lot of people are really interested is really the community aspect. So they're interested in getting in touch with fellow champions, but also with people at Camunda. So meeting stakeholders at Camunda, providing feedback, getting their questions answered. So that is something really important to them. So we have a Slack workspace exclusively for our champions. Some of our employees from Camunda, they are also in there. Then we organize regular champion events. So we have quarterly meetings with them, like a 1-hour meeting. People can join, they don't have to join, but it's really, as I said, about this community aspect. And then we have once a year a Camunda Champion Summit. It's also virtual because our champions are so globally spread out. And it's a 3-hour event where we invite important stakeholders. So, for example, our CTO joined last time and answered questions exclusively for our champions. We're doing networking things, icebreakers, but also we really want to hear from our champions. So we ask our champions to present champion spotlights. So maybe they have like something they want to present to other champions, report on projects, things like that. And then other than that, obviously we have like special swag, and they get a free ticket for our conference, and they get a badge, things like that. But I think the most important part is really the community aspect, and that they also connect with each other. I think that is super important to the members of our program.
Nice. And we don't have to get into the weeds of metrics, but any sort of anecdotes of just kind of some small wins you've seen from like everyone at your company is like, great, we've got this. It sounds great. But what are some of the small wins that you've had so far?
I think there were a lot of wins. So something that I just really love to see is when champions pair up and that they do something together. For example, 2 of our champions, so they started just a regular Twitch stream, and they like once a week they just streamed on Twitch and just chatted about like project they're working on. And I think that is always like really fun when they pair up. But I think something that is also super important for us, and what we always emphasize, that is really about also giving back to the community. So helping newbies, onboarding them, because we don't want that it's an exclusive program and we want to like exclude people from the program, but instead we really see it as, okay, we enable our champions to support the community better, and that's why we supporting them, and then they can maybe onboard newbies and host sessions for people. So I think that is something that I always really like to see when people are like pairing up and that they collaborate. But also one really important win for me is we get a lot of applications, and obviously we also have to reject people, but usually I reach out to people and tell them, hey, we really valued like that you applied for the program, maybe we can support you to become even more visible, more active. And a lot of people get back to me and they're not like frustrated or anything, but they actually say like, oh, thank you so much for reaching out, I would love to work with you on becoming more active and getting into the program next year. And that is definitely for me like a big win, that people are so open to like learn more and contribute more, and that they really want to join the program, and that they don't really feel like, okay, they now rejected me, so now I don't want to talk to them anymore. But instead they really want to learn and they really want to like become more active, and I think that's a big win for me.
Wow, this is just amazing and inspiring. So it's easy hearing from you today and learning about your efforts to understand like why you're like so successful. We do have some questions from Juan down in Colombia, just a little bit west of
Nice.
Berlin, Germany. So the first question from Juan to you, Juan asked, is what are first steps to build a new community? So I guess some of the steps, like for anyone new, what would you recommend?
Yeah. Something that I think is super important is, first of all, always to start with why. Okay, why am I even building a community, right? So just as a really first fundamental step, asking yourself what kind of value do I want to bring to people, and why do I even need a community for that? Because for me, like an audience, it's not a community, right? So we maybe on social media we have an audience as it's just like one way, but in a community we really want people to get value from the community, and also that they get value from each other. So I think the first step is really asking, why do I need a community, and what or how can I bring value to community members? And then I think as a first step, even if you're starting super small, maybe you have 1, 2, 5 community members. So the first thing that I would always do is reaching out to these people and asking them, hey, why did you even join my community? What would you wish for? What would you like to see happening? So I think talking to members one-on-one when starting off, I think that is always super helpful, and I think that is always a really great step for me. I mean, probably Blake, you also have to add something there, because you have so much experience with building community, but I think these are for me like 2 crucial first steps.
No, I couldn't have said it any better. It's like we think the same, so we're like from the same community family. We just didn't know it. So you're like the community
I love
cousin
that.
or big sister, brother, whatever. It's like it's amazing. Just you said it way better than I could, and put it. Just everything they said is like it's like there's a beauty to the simplicity of that, but it just pays dividends when you are like where some of the community members that just feel so like communities members feel so disconnected because the communication is like only like in press releases. It's so corporate. And so it's so
Mhm.
tightly controlled that nobody's talking to members. So that becomes a growing disconnect because of that in terms of what they want, what are they frustrated, what are the blockers, because there isn't that dialogue. Communication comes out 6 months, 12 months, and it could just be, not good. And there's like one effort where it's like content creation program that I just talked to a team about, and they're going to start a content creation program of a certain kind. Met with all the people internally. Hey, we're going to do this thing. And then, but what was the one group they didn't talk to see if they had anybody that actually wanted to do it? Actual community members, right? So it's like you start with the community members and just making sure to in some cases just vet for what should we roll out first, right? If you're talking to them, that gives you a really clear line of sight in terms of what they would value, and at least if you're going to roll out something, say like that, where they're going to do this whole content creation program, but zero people ready to participate, it's going to save you a lot of heartbreak, and other team members hey, whatever happened to that thing? We made all these updates, and yeah, so that can be weird. And I know Juan's got another question. So down in Colombia, a lot of the teams there they have communities, but one of the things that they struggle with, which is common for others, is how do we get members to? A lot of people like to read and consume, but how do we keep getting people to engage and contribute? So kind of what are those kind of ways that you would kind of recommend to motivate people within the community, or any types of strategies or tactics there?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's always important also to find out how do you want people to contribute, because obviously there are a variety of ways how you can contribute to a community. But I think really important is to find out for yourself, like in an ideal world, how would you like people to contribute? And also making that clear, because I think this is something that we also realized, that we could be way more specific about how do we actually want people to contribute. How can people, for example, join the champion program? What are ways to contribute? Because what I realize is that there are a lot of people who actually want to give back, but they don't really know how, and they don't really know where to start. So also outlining what are the ways you want people to contribute, but also where can they get support in doing so, right? Because sometimes it can be intimidating for community members to take the first step and start. So really always offering support there. So if it's really about answering questions on the forum. So that is always, yeah, like a great example of community support. But maybe you also want people to create content. I think it really depends on your community, but being really clear about that, and then always offering support, I think that is always really important.
Wow, I think you're my new favorite community speaker. Just this is
Oh my
amazing.
god. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely love this. It's just the way you're putting everything. It's like this kind of the same thoughts, just brilliant. Just yeah, just so refreshing that other people, anyone out there, is had the same thoughts, or thinking about things the same way. So reaffirming and things like that. And I know one has another question, but one of the things also just to touch on is you have an all-star team of people on your staff working on your community team. So so people would definitely throw things at me I didn't ask. So how did that come about? Having this all-star team, and what's it like to have Mary and some of these other people on staff there, building out your community program?
Oh. Yeah, so I have to say we have a really amazing developer relations team. So Mary, I think you know Mary Thangwell, so she is leading our developer relations team. And when I started at Camunda, I think I was the first community person to join, building up the community programs, and at some point we realized, okay, we need more people really focusing on our developer community. So obviously we always had people taking care of our community. We had consultants, the support team, but then really creating a developer relations strategy, I think that was something really fundamental for us. And now we have our developer relations team. We have people taking care of different programs. So for example, one of our team members, she took over the Meetup Organizers program. And something really, really nice to see is that I started the program, but she made something completely different out of it, but in a good way. She just optimized so many things. She built on top of what was already there. And I think there was also really about listening to the people, seeing where they at and what they need to thrive even more. And so now we have a team of, I think, 8 people probably. And it's just really nice to see how we collaborate, and that everyone is focused so much on community, and that community in this team is really like priority, and like listening to people and seeing where we can support them best.
Great. That's just what a amazing team. And it's just great. I can't even imagine. That just makes waking up and starting each day so much easier. And then, so let's see what one asks. In startups, some person sell us growth hacking before marketing, data, or other business. So it's like the kind of the startups, like talking about community before there's even a community, I guess, and things like that. So any thoughts there on that kind of stuff?
Can you repeat that question? In startup, some person sell growth hacking
Just
before
like yeah.
marketing. Mm-hmm.
They're selling community before there's even like a community, before there's any like organic growth. So it's like, hey, we're gonna do this like community thing, and then it's like, it's almost like all the hype, that's the party. There's nobody on the dance floor, but they're talking about community almost.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that I referred to before is really like finding out, do I even need a community, and do I even add value to like people's life with that community? So I think something to think about is always, okay, what is actually the problem, and what can we solve? What kind of problem can we solve like with community? Because I actually think like almost every real community starts with a problem. So maybe people want to find out like more, for example, for Camunda, it's really about like people connecting with each other to like tackle technical problems, or like really interact with each other to learn more about how to leverage the product. And I can see that there are some like businesses or brands who like talk a lot about community, but there's actually not really like a community there yet. So I think there's a big hype at the moment about like community, also with since COVID hit. I think even more businesses or brands started to realize the value of community. But obviously, a community is only a community if the members really gain value out of like interacting in the community. And I think definitely something to emphasize is that marketing is not the same as community. And also, as I said, an audience is not a community. I think these things are really closely related and they go hand in hand, but it's really not the same.
Yeah, just absolutely amazing. Thanks for those question one. So it's kind of tough to sell a community before you have a community. If someone's selling you, I don't know, ice in Alaska or somewhere else, and yeah, something's off for sure there. And one thing just to talk to you about is we've got a lot of community professionals that are new coming into the industry, and others that may be looking towards it. So just imagine if you were giving like, this was kind of all like one big like virtual university or college. You're giving like a commencement speech as someone that a lot of people look up to, for the people just coming in or just started. What sort of inspiration or advice or kind of like talking points or anything that you would share with them just to help to motivate them, or just kind of like as they're coming in, what are some of the things that you think are really important that they know as they start their journey in community or even in dev route?
Yeah. Yeah, I think just get started, and like just do it. I think that is always, as I said before, I think the most intimidating part is always like to get started, and you might worry that like there are other people out there who do something like way better than you. But I think if you're really like a people person, and if you really enjoy supporting people, I think then just get started. And something that I would definitely recommend is that you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. Something that I realize is that the community space is really full of like people who love to support. And I also know that there are like a lot of mentorship programs, and where you can just like reach out to people. And when you just get started, ask for help and ask people to share like tips and really present to them what you're working on, and maybe also get input from others, because this is definitely something that I really love to do. And this is also why I love to be like on podcasts and talk to other community professionals, because it's always really nice to hear other people talking about like what they're doing. And I think that always helps a lot. So really don't be afraid to ask for help. And this is something that I would really recommend to everyone out there who really wants to get started.
And one little add-on question. So then for the teams there, for that first day of doubt, like, it's like, I don't know what I don't know. It's like, am I doing this right? I don't know. Like, so on those sort of moments early on when they get those doubts or may feel like, am I doing this the right way? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think you can always reach out to other people for help and also ask them for input. Because obviously, if you never did something before, how should you know how to do it right? I mean, if you really start off completely new, in the best scenario, you have a team you can rely on. Maybe you have like a good manager you can ask questions to. And I think that can be also sometimes like intimidating, because you're like, oh, I really want to like seem like the smartest person in the room and I shouldn't ask any questions, right? But I think like really yeah, asking people for their input, I think there's really nothing wrong there, and this is something that I would always recommend. And yeah, really not, I think it's really hard, like a hard advice to give, that you shouldn't doubt too much, because I think that's completely natural. And I think you can also just like kind of appreciate that you're doubting, but then like getting over it and then asking other people for help.
Thanks so much. And so I think for when a lot of people see your effort, your work, and especially hear you talk, it's like, here's somebody that's going to be, a chief community officer like one day. And so do you think, like, is that something that you hope to sort of like be one day a community professional, like on the C-suite? Do you think that's going to be kind of common in the future, where more communities are going to be like have that seat at the executive table as a CCO, chief community officer? Because it's easy to see, like you were like, if there's going to be one, it's got to be someone like you, right?
That's so nice to hear. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm not sure about my like future path, obviously, but something that I can definitely say is that I realize that companies realize that community is becoming more and more important, and they really start seeing the value of community and what kind of value community can bring. So I think that is something really nice to see, and I think it makes sense to also separate community, like the community department, from other departments, because as I said before, marketing and community goes hand in hand for sure. But I think it shouldn't live under marketing. I think it should be two separate things. If you need like a chief community officer right away, I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. I think that really depends on the company, what your strategy is, how much community is a focus. But I think if you have this role in place, that can be a real driver for your business. So I definitely see why it can bring a lot of value to have a chief community officer.
Nice. Well, you're definitely on your way there. And one thing that kind of brought to mind is, so you're doing all this work with community and your members, but just kind of like maybe in your personal business life, what value do your community members give you? Do they give you like motivation? How are they kind of, because we think about it, we are dealing with like actual human beings. So just curious, what kind of ways maybe do community members, the ones you've met, what things are they bringing back into your life?
Yeah. I always see it really as a two-way street. So I think I'm trying to obviously support community members, but obviously the work in community really, yeah, I just get so much out of it. And also like these personal connections and working with people, it's just something that I really enjoy doing. So, I mean, it's not like I don't want to sound selfish, but it's just really nice to be in touch with people, and also getting inspiration from community members, right? Because maybe I come up with the idea, then I ask like a community member, how do you feel about this idea? Then they give me like their perspective, and then I'm like, okay, that's actually true. Maybe I should like reconsider that. And then it's basically like a collaboration. So it's really not like I am just like supporting them or they just like bring value to the company, but it's really like a two-way street, and I really see it as a collaboration. So I definitely agree that there's like a lot that also community members, yeah, bring me.
Yeah, it's like that, internally, it's like you're trying to cross align with these different teams, marketing, customer success. But one of the most critical groups, to your point, to align with is your community members, and
Mhm.
really just being aligned with them. When you can do that, the moments of serendipity are much more likely to happen just because you are closely aligned to what they're doing. And one kind of interesting question there is like, is there any like something like really fun or really silly that you've done so far in your community work?
Fun and or silly.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is because
Anything you've done so.
so I must say I have I think at Camunda we are also a lot about like humor and fun. So for us it's really about like it's really like personal working with community members, right? So we are never like ashamed to make like a lot of fun. I also have one of my colleagues I work really closely with, and we just do like a lot of fun things also like at online events. I remember that, for example, I think it was like our conference, then he had to like make a drink, and the community members like told him what kind of drink he should make and what kind of ingredients, and like things like that. Just keeping it fun, keeping it light. I think that is super important also because we are all human beings, and it's really about like human interaction. And I think we shouldn't forget that because it's not just about like selling, but it's really about like this personal connection.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so, like, switching gears just slightly. So, did you grow up in Berlin? Have you been in Berlin like your whole life?
I grew up in the north of Germany. It's called Bremen. I think I live in Berlin for 6 years now. So yeah, I grew up in the north of Germany, but I always loved to go to Berlin, and now I'm living here already for quite a long time. I mean, long as always. I mean, not that long, but 6 years.
Nice. And any kind of like fun Berlin stories, anything out that kind of really show like it just kind of represents like what it's like living in such a thriving, amazing city. It's like you got like all sorts of public transportation,
Mhm.
bars, there's so much to see and do. There's historical stuff. It's just such a vibrant city, and everyone there is like so warm. The obviously for Americans, eating there is a little different because like in America, everybody wants like meals like in 30 minutes, and a lot of the not really great restaurants there, it's like they really let you, with each dish and stuff. So it's one of the most amazing cities to me. But I just for someone that, but I've only been as like a tourist, right? But I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, like any kind of interesting parts about Berlin or any kind of just memorable stories from your time there.
Yeah. First of all, I really love to hear that you enjoyed Berlin. I also really love to live here. I think something that is, why I like Berlin so much is just because it's such a diverse city. So you have, I always feel like everyone can kind of find like what's best for them. I mean, there are people who really are into like all the cultural scene, so they really love to go to museums and to the theater, things like that, and you will find a lot of museums. Actually, I just Googled. I think there are like 180 museums here in Berlin. So I thought that is quite a lot. And as you said, like food in Berlin. So there's such like diversity when it comes to food. And yeah, I think for me, like the diversity like of the city is just like something that I enjoy most. I think when you go to like a certain district and then you go to another one, it feels like you're basically in a different city, and that is something that I really enjoy.
Yeah, it's like one of our when I was at Texas Instruments, our big community member was Yen Michaels Gross. It's like
Mhm.
the one kind of like the just having a member that just everybody knew him was at in Berlin, and it was like so fascinating. A developer, so like when everything was like building and running and things like that, it was like everything needed to compile. So then he could just like go help out on the community while that's doing, or sometimes just go out enjoy the like Berlin nightlife, then come back do some community stuff, go to bed. But it was like so amazing, just like when you're in those cities like that, where like even for just the community members, it's like, hey, I can just do the community stuff, enjoy the nightlife, be social, then come back and do it. Because there's some cities where those opportunities really don't exist. But I think I love that everything except when it gets really really cold there, like around Berlin Film Fest, like early February, where it's like
Yeah.
really really cold but really really wet. So you're just like constantly cold and just a little bit of wet and things like that. And there was like one church there. It was like kind of I think bombed out. I forget. I got
Mhm.
lost on a stop, but there was like this amazing church, and it was like it had this like all this the windows like the stained
Mhm.
glass. And I just and there's so many places like that in Berlin where I could just stop and just like
Yeah.
appreciate it, inspire it, even if I didn't entirely know. And just it's
Yeah.
just such a kind of a golden city. And just yeah, it's like I definitely recommend that everybody goes there. And another place that I have right that you also went to is New Zealand,
Mhm. Yeah, when I went to school, I actually lived for half a year in New Zealand, close to Wellington.
and you got to do all the Lord of the Rings stuff, or was
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's such a beautiful country. I would really love to go back one day. So I haven't been back since then because obviously for me it's really like the other side of the world. So I couldn't go any further than that. But yeah, one day I really want to go back because it's such a beautiful country.
you got to do a lot of sightseeing and taking
Mhm.
photos?
Yeah, I did, but I think back then I was 16 years, so I think my priorities have changed like a little bit since then. So I think I would kind of,
Right.
so I think I would probably enjoy the country a little. Yeah, I think I would also do different things and would travel even more. So, but yeah, one day I'm sure I will go back.
Nice. And I know one of the things that seems close to your heart is volunteering. So I'm just curious, like,
Mhm.
what got you into volunteering, and then just kind of you're a board member over at this Signal of Solidarity. So what is Signal of Solidarity about as well?
So, Signal of the Solidarity is a nonprofit organization who is really committed to creating an open society. So, we try to like create awareness also for topics such as human rights, refugees, things like that. And we have different programs where we support people. In those programs. And yeah, I think I always loved volunteering. So when I went to school, I already started doing that, and I just really like giving back. But yeah, maybe that also sounds like a little like selfish, but also I think it's just really nice to see when you can add value to people's life and when you really feel that it makes a difference and that it's really meaningful what you're doing. And I mean, I'm so privileged, I was born in Germany, and for me it's really about like giving back and just also using my privileges and then yeah, giving back to people, but also having fun while doing so. It's not really just that I see like myself as like just helping people, but obviously I really love to like collaborate with the people at Signal of Solidarity. We have a really amazing team. It's just so much fun to work with all these individuals who, yeah, put so much time and effort into like volunteering work. So yeah, that is a lot of fun, and I really love giving back.
Wow, that's really inspiring. Just like when you like we say walk the talk, that just like hey, giving back, trying to make the world a better place for you to meaningfully be doing that in your day job, but outside of work in your own precious time too. That's really something we should all like aspire to. And before we get to the lightning round questions, with this hour is like totally flown by. So just amazing to have Luca on today. If you're watching this in the future, just remember, if you need I would say my favorite community speaker is like number one rankings, if there was a rankings in the world, is you. So just be sure to reach out to them if you need a great community speaker. Forget everybody else. Just book them. They're all you're going to need here. And kind of like before we get to the lightning round, just one other like question that was kind of interesting. Get your take insight on. There's a lot of like community trends, DevRel trends that are people are talking about for 2023. So it's kind of just the same old stuff. But do you see like anything that we aren't talking about right now that you actually think, hey everyone, these are like some of the trends I think that I know we're talking about all this stuff over here, but what are some of the trends that we aren't talking about that you think maybe starting to take shape or kind of like dominate like what everybody's talking about in community or DevRel in next year in 2023?
Well, I think there are a lot of things that we are already talking about, but they become increasingly important. So I think what we talked about before, like thinking about how do we get together in the future in 2023? Is it like virtual? Is it in person? Is it hybrid? So I think that is like a really important question to ask ourselves. And I think we talked about it like quickly prior to like this recording. Obviously, it makes sense to get together in real life, but also now, or virtually. But I also now realized when we get together in person, there are just like some things that you cannot replace, right? So when you see someone in real life, it's just super different. So I think that is definitely one of the big themes that we will yeah, think about like next year. How do we actually meet? Yeah, I think one of the most important things that we also like mentioned before is really like listening to your community members. I think community as a whole is becoming increasingly important, and I think we will talk about it more and more, especially like community growth. That is, I think, something that we will focus on in 2023 way more. And I think it got a lot of attention already now the past years, but I think it's becoming increasingly important.
Nice. And then we get moving on as we wrap up here to the lightning round questions. Some of these are fun. So the first lightning round, super fast question: have you met, in your experience so far, have you met any celebrities, and to date, any fun stories there?
I have to say, I think I just saw like German actors. So I think if I would now say like a name, no one would know this person. So probably I didn't meet anyone super famous so far, but it's on my list. I guess I'm optimistic that I will maybe meet someone soon.
Nice. I was trying to think. Yeah, I met so many like German actors, actresses, and stuff. But and then only one is like Christoph Waltz, but I think he's out of Austria,
Ooh,
so doesn't
yeah.
doesn't
Yeah,
entirely. But just amazing actor. I think he's been in some German TV as well.
yeah, yeah.
And then another one is like, as a community professionals, do you speak two languages, German and like English? Are there other languages? Because I'm just starting to learn Spanish. It's really fascinating for me because it's like too many people in the U.S. It's like we learn
Mhm.
English and then it's like it feels like we're lazy. So I'm like, how did I get in this point where all I really know is English and some basic conversational French, Catalan, some other stuff. So just what are some of the languages that you know? And do you think like learning different languages is critical for at least community managers that are going to be in global community programs?
Mhm. For me, so I speak German and English fluently, but then I lived in the Netherlands. I speak a little bit of Dutch, but I really feel I should have learned more while being there. I definitely admire people who speak a lot of languages. I something that is on my list to do is definitely to learn a little bit more Spanish because I don't know. It always like I was always super like curious about like the Spanish language. But yeah, as I said, I really admire people who speak a lot of languages, and I think it can definitely help when working with global communities. But I also realize that a lot of people get along well with speaking English, but also we sometimes have to realize that maybe some things get a little lost, when people don't talk in their native language. So yeah, I speak two fluently and then maybe two other languages like a little bit, but yeah, I wouldn't, yeah, I'm not super convinced of my own skills there.
Nice. And when I hear Dutch, there's that little like treat that they have there. It's like a little, what is it called? It's like a, forget what it's called, but these little like Dutch treats that they have, they're like so good. It's like that's always like the first thing that anytime I hear Dutch, I immediately go to those like treats, and it's like I have to like stop because I feel like you could just go through like 500 of them in a day. It's like, oh my god, then be like having
Yeah.
to eat those things are so good. I forget what they're called. And I am learning Spanish, like Duolingo, so just going through it there. So we may have to like
Yeah.
get a bunch of people together just to see like uh, where things are on or off. I had like one community member in Peru, Martin Valencia. It's like
Mhm.
I've known him for like I guess almost 10 years now. He doesn't speak English. I don't speak Spanish, but we still communicate. Google Translate and other tools help out. But it's like just at some point you're like, wait a minute, like what point, Blake, are you going to learn Spanish? Like this is ridiculous. Step up. And so yeah, I've got to do it. Two more lightning round questions. I know there's got to get back to your day. So, what is one community metric people should consider measuring or putting into their
Mhm.
programs, but usually do not have it?
Mhm. I think something when it comes to metrics, what is super important is really putting metrics into context, because sometimes I feel we are tracking metrics, but we're not really putting them into context. And then it actually doesn't really make sense to track these metrics. But something when it comes to community and community growth, I think it's important to look at retention. So that is definitely something, in my opinion, that's super important.
Again, I just completely agree. This is why you're the number one best speaker in the world on community, as far as I'm concerned. And last question, kind of just easy one, just anything that jumps out. Just so for the people with this weekend coming up is in, fall's a great time, like in the winter months, especially for people around the world to start reading or watching stuff. So is there any like books, bands, songs, shows on some streaming services, movies, anything that kind of that you would recommend as people start to, the holiday season kicks in? They're like, hey, is there a book or anything like that that kind of jumps out that you want to tell people about?
Yeah. Personally, I really love to listen to podcasts, so that is something that I really enjoy doing, and I think I love everything that Brene Brown is doing. So I'm really a big fan of her. And then also something not related to community, but one book that I can definitely recommend when now, like going into the holiday season, is reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you know, but it's just like a really amazing book, and it's kind of like a mantra for myself, always focusing on the present moment and really, yeah, focusing on the present and like the moment you're in right now. And I think that is something, a really inspirational book for me.
And who wrote that book?
Eckhart Tolle.
Okay, I was just
Um,
making sure I had the right word. I was like,
yeah,
you, it's like when I perk up, like if there's a book I haven't heard, it's like, wait, who is it? Make sure I have like the right
yeah,
author. They're like, you got the wrong book. It's the wrong Power of Now, but there's
yeah,
only one apparently. So yeah,
def- definitely.
that's like yeah, it's such a like as like I get older, it's like it's just such an amazing point. It's like we're just like always think of the now, like finding that happiness and peace,
Mhm.
like even just like on a normal day, it's like there's like a beauty to just the sun coming up,
Yeah.
nothing's going wrong, and just kind of enjoying it. So whether I'm here like at the house on a meeting or on the strip, it's just like allowing that switch to go off to be like, hey, I enjoy it, versus
Mhm.
like some of my friends, they've got to be like at the dance floor, at a party. Then it's like,
Mhm.
now I can have fun. Or just now I can enjoy things. And it's like, wait a minute, what if you could enjoy everything? Maybe what if you could just be in that same mindset? And it's like, always like trying to get to that mindset of just enjoying all these moments and things like that, and they're just kind of priceless. And so that's like it's such a tough thing, and even people that do it, it's like just that kind of almost like a meditation. So that's just
Yeah.
there's a book on that's like really amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think we sometimes worry too much about like what happened in the past and what will be happening in the future, but then sometimes we miss like the present moment. And I think that is something that, I mean, obviously it always or not always works out, but definitely it's something that I try to incorporate more in like my daily life, to just try to really appreciate the present moment. And I think then you can also really appreciate like the bigger things when you are really able to appreciate like the small things in life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as we just kind of wrap up here, one kind of like holiday book, if you're looking for something kind of touches on community, really fun, really silly. Jesse Cole, the yellow tuxedo guy, has a book called Fans
Nice.
First. So any
Hmm.
what talks about the Savannah Bananas, which is like a baseball team, but not a baseball team. It just is like some like for any professional out there looking for just something that's like pure sugar, pure silly, but pure awesome and just incredible. It's just like the way they're building it in real life community through Savannah Bananas and all the stuff they're doing. It's like so inspiring. So get their book, Fans First, Jesse Cole, the Yellow Tuxedo guys, or just go to YouTube and Google Savannah Bananas. So that's a really fun one as well. But wrapping up here today, that's like an hour has flown by. Thank you so much for being gracious with your time today. It was just amazing to when you discover other people that we've never talked to before, never had these conversations, and just being like on the same wavelength or having like the same thought. It's like it's so amazing, so refreshing too. And I just think just hearing about the Champions Program, Camunda Con, your team, it's like just hearing directly from you. It's just so easy to see why that's like so high performing and so successful. And I think for all the community professionals that couldn't be with us here today, and for other people, just it gives so much inspiration back to so many teams that are watching, looking at what you're doing, kind of the North Star for so many community and DevRel things like at someday I want to be like a Camunda, things like that. Or someone will go like, oh, there's no good like DevRel efforts, or like, are you crazy? Go look at what they're doing over here to see like a really mature, like a program that's really doing it right. So just a huge congratulations to you and the team there, doing some amazing, inspiring work. So just I think for a lot of us that you may not realize how many people that you are inspiring, but just giving a lot of us a north star as far as that stuff goes, or saying like this is what's possible. So just really huge shout out, congratulations to the team there, and just thanks for getting out as well, just into the industry to share that knowledge, because it just you've got so many amazing insights and just really amazing strategy and way that you're looking at things. So it's just a really it's so helpful for other people to see it and hear it, because it's just like that almost invisible hand when people can get the type of information you share today and insights like could be a missing piece like oh that's what I was missing, or that's what I need to be doing. So that's just so helpful when we have people that are willing to share that type of information. And I will stop talking, say thank everybody for joining another episode of the Community Hour. Any final thoughts from you today, other than it's hopefully not running too late there, but any final thoughts from
Yeah, I just want to thank you for this conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me. And also, thank you for talking to different community professionals out there, because I think, as you just said, it's really important for people, especially people who just like start and who are new to the industry, to like hear these kind of stories and really learn from other professionals. And I think for me, it's really important that we really support also each other, not only our community members, but also us as a community of community professionals. So thank you so much for like offering that space and inviting me. And thank you for this really nice conversation today.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Tuesday, November 8th, election day in the USA. Get out and vote and enjoy the rest of your day. Luca, if you've got any podcast speaking opportunities, just amazing speaker. We are just really blessed and honored to have them on. So have a great Tuesday, and I will be sending out other updates for future guests and all that sort of thing. So and I can't even believe it's like November. It's like next week's the middle, then we get like holiday. Oh, this is crazy. But yep, have a great Tuesday, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.